This is Geoffrey Beavers, and you will obey me. You will listen to the sirens of audio.
G'day audiophiles, this is the Sirens of Audio, the show that explores the universe of Doctor Who in the audio medium. I'm Dwayne.
And I'm Philip. G'day Dwayne, g'day audiophiles.
Well, g'day Philip. This has been a show a long time coming. I promised this about 2 months ago, and it's taken us a long time to get here.
Just trying to get this recorded has been hard work, hasn't it?
It has.
It's partly my fault, so I'm sorry.
But our good friend Kenny couldn't make it either, so we're very sorry about that, but we must make sure to have him on the show again very, very soon.
Indeed.
So for today, we're going to be looking back at 2022 and the releases of Big Finish over that year. And instead of like previous shows where we've done this, we looked at the releases of the month and then picked a couple of ones that we liked from that particular month. We've gone for the whole year and picked a top 10. Now, Kenny was going to join us and it was turning into a top 5 each. And we were going to try very hard not to double up. But because Kenny couldn't join us, you and I, Philip, are going to a top 10.
Yes, and we pinched some of his. Yeah,
we did pinch some of his. So thanks, Kenny. But it's still very difficult to come up with 10, isn't it?
It's impossible to come up with 10. You've made me do it.
Well, it's not impossible. Agony. We've done it.
Well, we've done it. But can I say, if you ask me again in a week's time, it will change.
Well, I feel the same. Like, I've looked at my list and I go, that's how I feel today. But yeah, I could feel differently tomorrow. And our lists don't reflect the quality of anything that hasn't hit our lists. I think primarily for me, Philip, and I don't know how you feel, but when we're speaking of feelings, these stories, it's all about the impact and how they made me feel, not about, you know, what kind of quality story it is or anything like that. But if the story has made me feel something, it's gone in my list. I do have an overall favourite for the year. I don't know if you do too, Philip, but maybe
I do.
Maybe you can think about that throughout the show. We might disagree, we might agree, but time will tell as to what the favourite will be. But before we do, there is something we have to get to first. Do you know what that is?
Are we going to do that today as well, are we?
Yeah, we're going to do it as well.
Okay. Good stuff.
Right, it's a rabbit hole. Let's jump in. I want to just briefly talk about our year personally as a show over the year of 2022, and I would have to say, Philip, that we had a pretty good year. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad year.
What are some of the standouts for you?
Some standouts I mean, it always comes down to the guests and some of the stories. We managed to get 2 doctors on, so both Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy we had on.
2 television doctors.
2 television, yeah. So 2 television doctors we had on during the course of the year.
We also had Tim Treloar. So I
think we've had 1 doctor this year as well. Just trying to work out where we've had the other doctors throw in. But yeah, two television doctors, and that's always very exciting. And I love chatting with Colin and Sylvester whenever the opportunity arises. We had wonderful guests in terms of television companions as well. Chatting with Nicola was amazing, and we've got lots of stuff that we talked about for ages and ages with her, which we haven't put out, but we just kept chatting and having a great time with her. Bonnie Langford is a huge hero of mine through stage and screen, and once again, there's a lot of conversation we didn't put out, which when I do my musical podcast. We've got material for that.
It was such a thrill to get Bonnie. I didn't think we'd have that opportunity, but I was so pleased that we did because, her time in Doctor Who is a very special time for me personally, sentimentally.
Yeah, and the way she's just what they've Big Finish have done with her character is just such a joy. And Sophie Eldred we had on.
Not last year we didn't.
Was she the year before? Was she?
Yes.
Okay. I thought she was at the very beginning of the year.
No, that was Bonnie. But I probably might, as far as companions go, the standout for me would have to be Maureen O'Brien. We had the privilege of having her on a podcast for the very first time. I was so pleased that we were able to have such a in-depth chat with her and get to know her so well over that time. She was very relaxed with us by the end, Philip.
Oh, very casual and having a great time, and said she'd come back.
Yeah, fantastic.
What are your other highlights, Dwayne?
It was really good to put that 20th anniversary Chimes of Midnight special together. Unfortunately, Rob Sherman couldn't join us for that because we had Robert Kirbishley and we had Lennox Greaves and Sue Wallace on that particular show.
Just the three of them together, because we had all three of them on at the same time.
It's hard to do an interview with multiple people, isn't it?
It is, and they were having a ball together. Like they were having so much fun and teasing each other, and it was just lovely.
Yeah. But as a result of that, Rob Sherman, who wasn't able to join us at that time, came on a bit later. So it was good to have a chat with him in depth about his Big Finish stories, because he is certainly, even though the volume of stories of Rob Sherman is low, you cannot deny his influence on the Big Finish universe and the Doctor Who universe as well, just with one episode that he's written on TV. So it was great to be able to have him on too. Yeah.
I was just thinking too, in terms of, having Nick Briggs come on too was lovely. He was very generous with his time and told us a lot.
Just some of the writers that the randomoids would come up, and then you would contact me and say, well, I've just got in touch with Tony Lee, or I've just got in touch with James Moran. When we were going to talk about, just do a quick review of the stories, you'd often end up with the authors as well. So Tony Lee in particular, I thought was really thrilling he's a good talker, and it was good to get his thoughts on things. So those kind of episodes were great. Ian Meadows was great. It was awesome to talk to. It's always awesome to talk to sound designers. Also have a catch up with John Dorney again. Pat Mills was fascinating too. And of course we had Susanna Harker come and talk to us, which was thrilling for us. I'm a fan of Sapphire and Steel, and you're a fan of
House of Cards.
House of Cards. So not Doctor Who related, but it's sort of related, if you can call Ian Richardson related to Miles Richardson, who is very heavily in the Doctor Who universe. So there's a bit of a connection there.
We were lucky to get Joe Kramer on, and out of that we managed to get our own theme song.
Oh, so, fantastic. Thank you so much, Joe. We're going to be using that for a long time to come, and what a thrill that was to be offered a theme for our podcast.
Yep, so we got our own original theme song by award-winning Joe Kramer. That's one of the great things. Yeah. I say one of the highlights from our year too. Sadly we lost some big names, but sadly David Warner passed away. I actually think we managed to put together a tribute to David Warner, which I'm actually really proud of, because I think that stands up to will stand up to any test of time, just in terms of honouring him and his memory and some of what he did. So that was something I was really proud to have done.
Yeah. And speaking of tributes, we did a tribute to the first series of Sarah Jane Smith as well towards the end of the year, and that was fantastic to put together and talk to a lot of those people. And Jez Fielder, it was so nice to get to know him. Such a nice guy.
Speaking of people who can talk.
Yes, he could talk and talk and talk. So that was thrilling too, to be able to put that together. And lots of people seem to enjoy that one. So there's lots of names there that we missed. We can't list everyone who's been there, but it certainly was a great year for the podcast. How do we top it, Philip?
Well, we'll see, but I think we can. There's some good stuff coming up. I mean, we've already done pretty well with Jeffrey Beavers and Michael Troughton, so we've kicked the year off in an okay sort of fashion, I think.
Yeah.
And some amazing stuff coming up already too.
We'll just keep plugging away. I'm not burnt out yet. Are you burnt out yet?
No, I'm not burnt out yet.
Getting there?
You know what? Sometimes I feel like I am, and then we sit down and have a conversation for 2 or 3 hours, and I just go, wow.
Yeah.
I know, it wasn't last, another one we sadly lost last year was Stephen Greif. Although we didn't talk to him last year. It was just the end of the year before. Just being able to know that we'd had this amazing 2+ hour conversation with Stephen Greif, and we'd been able to share so much with him, and he talked so much about us. And once again, an episode there that I'm very proud of, his memoir. He didn't want to write a book. He wasn't interested in doing that. He didn't think anyone would read it, but he did want to record some of his history, and he chose to do that with us. And so, I'm remarkably honoured by that. And we have a lot of other material. And, we are going to do a bit of a tribute to him in the coming month or two, anyway.
He didn't say specifically what he thought of the episode. I think the main comment he said to me was, "Don't you think it's a bit too long?" He wanted me to keep cutting it out so that it didn't drag on and on. He thought people wouldn't want to listen to him, but how wrong could he be?
Very humble. But fortunately, we have lots of other material now we can still put out.
Yes.
All the stuff we cut out because it's going to be too long.
Yes, and we are going to be sharing that with you very soon. But as a result of that, Stephen contacted me not too long afterwards and said, I'm sure Jan Chappell would be interested in doing some of this. How about I put you in touch with her? So he put me in touch with Jan, and we were able to talk to Jan as well. You'd already independently been in touch with Sally. So within that short space of time, we were able to chat with those three legends to us of Blake 7, and particularly you, Philip, because I know how close to your heart Blake 7 is, and that was a pretty thrilling time.
It
overall.
was indeed.
So thanks to Stephen, and then, it was Lisa Bauman in the first place that put. Well, she said that Stephen would be up for it, and I dropped her name to Stephen, and he was. So thank you, Lisa Bauman.
I think we are part of our great privilege is this, as we have more people on, the more names we can drop, and the more people who are willing to come on, because we look after people, hopefully, and people feel respected and looked after, and their work appreciated. Yeah, that's what we keep aiming to do, and that's why we aim not to talk too much, but to let our guests do.
We just can't help it.
I know. That's why we have these sessions, so we can chat away and then shut up when the guests are here.
Yes, that's right. All right. That'll do us for our reflections of 22 on the podcast. Let's climb out of the rabbit hole and talk about our top 10s, which I've made you rank, Philip. Now, why don't you like to rank things?
I don't like to rank things because I don't want people to feel that they're not important or less important than other people, or don't rank your children, don't rank your Big Finish. But I have done it. But that being said, there are things that I've left out, because part of what I've tried to do is actually cover a spread of different series, and so there would have been 2 Blake 7 releases in my top 10, but I've only put my top 1 in and left the other one out, which would have made it in. So there's a few things that would have made it in, but because of how I'm sort of wanting to show the breadth of Big Finish, I've left them out. Okay. So, trying to narrow down last year's input to 10 is just...
Yeah, that your dog thinks that too.
I know, sorry. She's going a bit crazy.
All right. Let's... I know it's usually always your turn, but let's start with you again and start off with your number 10, Philip.
Okay, number 10, which is still excellent. I feel like it's the biggest loser. No, I'm starting off with Doctor Who, Doctor of War, Genesis. When I found out they were doing some more Unbound, I loved the Unbound series when it first came out. Didn't love all of them, but I loved the concept, and I thought it was a brilliant concept, and it hasn't been played with for a while. So when I heard they were bringing back that concept, I thought it was wonderful. And within the first 3 minutes, it actually starts with Genesis Daleks, Tom Baker, Sarah Jane Smith, Harry Sullivan, Philip Naylor. We had this year too. He was great. And
Christopher
Naylor. We got this year, and I've got original artwork now from him too because it was so good. Yeah. So when it starts off with those 3, but it all goes wrong. Colin Baker is in fine form. In fact, better than fine form. So there's 2 box sets. First box set. Genesis, 3 stories, one by John Dorney, one by Lou Morgan, one by James Kettle. I think last year we sort of discovered James Kettle for the first time, and once again, James Kettle continues to be someone I love to watch because of his emotion. So John Dorney, I know I'm going to get a ripping yarn out of. I'm going to get some great movie references where he slightly distorts them. But James Kettle, I know I'm going to get real heart, and that's certainly what happened again. So the 3 stories, very entertaining. A bit of a twist, which sort of threw me, but I enjoyed that. But the cast, we have Tom Baker, Jeffrey Beavers, the Daleks happening. Nicola Bryant appears a bit. Sean Coulter's Narvin. It's just an amazing cast of who's, and it just doesn't lay up. The pace is unrelenting, and it's a bit bleak and black, but I like it. What did you think of?
I really loved it. I love the concept. It was really mind-blowing. You have to concentrate really hard to get what's going on. I actually preferred this second box that came out, which was Doctor of War Destiny. So the very first story in that is my favourite Unbound story for this year, but it doesn't make my top 10. That doesn't mean it's a bad story. And I've raved to you about it offline, about how much I enjoyed the Face of Evil sort of redux with Geoffrey Beavers in the role of the Doctor instead of the Fourth Doctor. So, I enjoy this set. But like you, I'm trying to diversify a little bit and not trying to double up with you. So we've compared lists so we know each other's lists, just for those who are watching. So we're going to try and get a top 10 of each of us, which gives you a top 20.
Yeah, well, I mean, I equally love the second box set, but I can only have 10, so I'm not allowed to combine them together. But if you get the first one, you've got to buy the second set. So get the first set. What about your number 10, Dwayne?
Well, I've chosen as my number 10 the 10th Doctor. Strangely enough, 10th Doctor Classic Companions is a box set that came out. Now, this is a result of the lockdown and all the scripts that were being written by for David Tennant because he was suddenly available and they were recording a whole heap of things. And this was recorded quite some time ago, released this year, in this last year in 22. 3 stories in there. And you see on the cover... No, you do see all the companions on the cover because there's 3 stories. You think there's 3 companions, but in actual fact, there's 4 because you've got the inclusion of K9, who has a pivotal role throughout the whole story. And 3 stories again. The first one opens by John Dorney, called Splinters, but the second one by Lizzie Hopley, the stuntman, that was probably my pick of this one. There is also an Axos story, so Roy Gill does a story called Quantum of Axos, and Roy Gill's always very sound writer as well. All those writers, if I see their names, I'm pretty happy that I know I'm going to get something good. And combine David Tennant with these, well, he's got a love of Doctor Who, doesn't he? So he's got a love of the character, so he's going to love these classic companions too. Even though it was done remotely, you can't tell. It's beautifully done. So you've got Louise Jameson as Leela, Sarah Sutton as Nyssa, Sophie Aldred as Ace, with John Leeson as K9. You know, I've kind of hesitated when I see a 10th Doctor thing, but over the last little while, I have softened immensely towards the 10th Doctor. In fact, I've been watching the 10th Doctor episodes with my kids, and we're up to Series 4 at the moment, about halfway through Series 4, and they're loving David Tennant. So it's going to be interesting when he comes back as Doctor 14 later in the year.
Yeah, great pick. I mean, I love those companions. I guess why I wouldn't put in my top 10 is because the companions aren't quite what you might expect, and that was enough just to knock it out of my top 10. But yeah, fantastic listen. I mean, I think it was the year before, Nyssa and the Master in the War Master set. That's the one that just breaks my heart and makes me cry. So this one didn't come quite up to that height. So yeah, knocked it out of the top 10 for me. But
she's an unsung hero, isn't she, Sarah Sutton?
Sarah Sutton is amazing.
Incredible. She's had some incredible stuff over the last couple of years.
Excellent.
Okay, Philip, give us your number 9.
My number 9, I'm going to go for a different series. I'm going to go for Sherlock Holmes.
I know you love your Sherlock Holmes.
I love my Sherlock Holmes. I love Nick Briggs' Sherlock Holmes. It's one of those things I think I've mentioned. Big Finish tricked me into buying these. They gave away a couple of free episodes, and I just got hooked. So I've always enjoyed Sherlock Holmes. I've always enjoyed the stories. This new one, The Fiends of New York by Jonathan Barnes. Jonathan Barnes has, for the last few blocks, actually a few years, they come sporadically. For the last little while, Jonathan Barnes has been doing box sets of stories in the style of Conan Doyle. So they're not originals, but he just captures Sherlock Holmes so perfectly and the mood. And he's taken us backwards and forwards all through Sherlock Holmes' life. And this one's called The Fiends of New York City. And it's just brilliantly played. If you love Sherlock Holmes, there's just some lovely little twists happening. Nicholas Briggs and Richard Earle are lovely. Timothy Bentinck as Mycroft Holmes added a lovely dimension. And love Lucy Briggs Owen. James Joyce. It's just a cast of beautiful people just doing what they do. The language is just so rich and over the top. No one ever spoke like that, I don't believe, but I don't care because it feels like they should be speaking that in Victorian London, and it just captured me from the very beginning. And a lovely twist at the end, and the fiend, the true fiend, is a lovely surprise when it's all worked out. So that's my pick for number 9.
I have listened to it, but I forget the twist at the end. I've listened to so much, I don't retain plot lines like that, which makes it very enjoyable when I go back and listen to things again. It's always very good. They're very good at doing classic and period stuff like this.
There's very much an A plot, B plot. Sherlock Holmes and Watson following very different storylines, but then the way they bring it together, very clever.
Yep.
Your number 9.
My number 9 is also off Doctor Who, and that is the Big Finish Classics range. The 8th one that was released last year, Jacqueline Hyde. It's been a couple of years coming due to the pandemic and other things, but a fantastic adaptation of the theatre play that Nick Briggs toured probably 7-8 years ago. So it's been out there a little while, and it's interesting because it stays very true to the text of the actual story by Robert Louis Stevenson. However, it puts a lot of focus on a character that only appears very briefly in the story. So even though it stays true to the text, it is very different at the same time. And there are some performances in there that actually blew me away. And you know, Philip, how much of a fan I am of this story. And it's the language of Robert Louis Stevenson in this particular era that I love as well, just like you love Sherlock Holmes, and I do too. But this is the kind of language that I just revel in. And I was able to hear some of the words that I've read to myself and heard other audiobook readers do, done in a way that was totally new. So it was very refreshing. And it even got you, who'd never really been into the story, to have a listen to it and appreciate it too, Philip, I believe.
It did. It actually freaked me out a bit. Part of those, I think Barnaby K's performance is outstanding. If there had to be a person of the year, Barnaby K might be the person of the year, just in terms of what he did in terms of coming to the fore of acting, because he's done some amazing acting roles. This was one of them, but also in UFO. He did directing and he did some writing as well.
He did Peladon at the start of the year, which is not in our list, but it's definitely worth a mention because it's it's one of those ones that I don't know why it didn't get into our list. It's just something has to be left out. But yeah, he directed that really well. Some really great stories in the Peladon box. Yeah,
so directing, acting, writing. He's the triple threat that came in this year.
He was writing for River Song too, wasn't he?
Yep, he did. So yeah.
From Big Finish Productions, Big Finish Classics, Jekyll and Hyde.
Satisfied.
Oh, he's commonplace enough to look at, but on the short side. But when you do look at him, you wish you had never done it. You wish you could forget. But I can never forget. I'll never forget that face. Never forget what he done.
Do not see, sir. They mean to take your life.
You are a liar, sir.
I beg your pardon.
And I did not give it.
By all lights, and at all hours of solitude and concourse, I was to be found. There, waiting. If he be Mr. Hyde, I thought, I shall be Mr. Seek. Like a blind fool, I welcomed it into my heart, my home, and it very nearly destroyed me. Thank the Lord, I am rid of it.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
The moment I choose, I can be rid of Mr. Hyde.
All right, so that's our number 9s. Let's go back to you for your number 8, Philip.
Number 8 is a heart favourite, probably in some ways. So Bernice Summerfield, the New Adventures of Bernice Summerfield of Blood and Steel. So I guess, having lost David,
bittersweet release, wasn't it?
Bittersweet. David Warren had passed away before this was released, and so I was listening to it with different ears. And I mean, I've always loved Bernice Summerfield. I've got all the books. It's nothing that I don't know how Big Finish got me on that one. But anyhow, somehow they tricked me into buying all the Bernice Summerfields too along the way. That made me poor. Big Finish, you're wicked. Hopefully my kids can sell all these CDs down the track and make lots of money out of them. But yeah, I've always loved Bernice Summerfield. Once again, the Unbound Doctor in David Warner. I thought his episodes in the Unbound, when it first came out years ago, were excellent. And so when they combined David Warner and Lisa Bauman together, they just spark with each other. You feel the love. You feel that they have this.
I was going to say that. I was going to say you can feel the connection between those two characters, and I think it's a bit of a crossover from their personal life too.
It is, and I didn't realize for years that they were connected, and it's only in the recent times I'd realized how connected they were. They just play beauty together. Cybermen, I always love Cybermen, and they're just great stories. James Gosson one in particular will come in. I think it's all set sort of like the cabaret period of Germany. So between the two world wars, you know what's coming with the Nazis. The Cybermen in some ways begin to emphasize how bad things are, but they're not the worst because Nazis are worse. And it's once again, it's a bit bleak, but the two of them together just pounce off. And if you love your Bernice Summerfield and you love your David Warner, you can't miss this one.
Berlin, the city that never sleeps. Because if she slept, she would have nightmares. Berlin, where the party never ends. And this is where the party starts.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The New Adventures of Bernice Summerfield, Volume 7, Blood and Steel.
Berlin in the 1930s. Not where you'd want an energy signal.
First, hypnotic pulse. People standing mute as the Cybermen came.
We offer you hope.
Let me go!
We are giving you a better life. You will live forever.
Let me tell you about Cybermen. They're always someone's son, or mother or daughter, it doesn't matter. They don't remember. All they do is kill.
I have always known our real forefathers controlled energies from beyond this world.
Seek higher! Seek higher!
My children are ready to march.
This can't be right. You always win.
Well, until the day I don't.
Oh, Doctor!
I think you should run, Summerfield.
Tomorrow belongs to us.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Coming through, here comes Santa Claus.
Woo-hoo! All right, so my number 8, I'm just looking at it, and coincidentally, my number 10 was a 10th Doctor. My number 8 is an 8th Doctor, and that is more of a recent release, only a few months ago. Connections was the name of the box set, and so they've gone off, and the 8th Doctor range in 2022 finished up the Stranded series, so we got Stranded 4 earlier in the year, and Connections was it the first or second release of them? I think it was the second 8th Doctor set that was released with this TARDIS team with standalone stories in the box set. So this is the second one of those, and there were 3 awesome stories in this, but my favourite story, my favourite 8th Doctor story, there is something about the character of Drax that I love, and he hardly appears ever. Never, only 2 episodes on classic Doctor Who, and only a couple of stories for Big Finish as well. But I just love particularly, I think John Dorney loves to play with the character of Drax, because he is a playful kind of character, and you kind of expect that. But I really loved that story most of all. You're talking about James Kettle with his emotional stories. Well, he's got one in there called The Love Vampires, which is very James Kettle. So he's got a certain stamp about him when he writes stories. You can sort of get a sense of his way of writing. And Roy Gill writes a really nice story called Albie's Angels. And I love the Weeping Angels. And you think, well, how can the Weeping Angels, because they're such a visual monster, work on audio? But they work, I think the Weeping Angels can work in any medium, because if you think about it, you're not actually seeing the angels doing anything on screen, generally, particularly from the early episodes when they didn't move because they couldn't move because they were quantum locked. So the angels' menace is all in your imagination. Whether you're watching them on television or whether you're listening to them, all the threat and menace of the angels is in your head. So I think the Weeping Angels are one of the best monsters ever created for Doctor Who, because that is why they are so scary, because all the menace happens in your own imagination, which is better than, it's really, really well done, what Stephen Moffat did there with those angels.
Yeah. If you're going to pick this probably would have been in my top 5.
Right.
Because I think the 3 stories are astounding. Albie's Angels, just in terms of the character line it gives to Helen, where she gets to meet her brother and spend time with her brother. That's just, it's got a really emotional heart, and they do some lovely things with Angels on Ice. I love, one thing I said to John Dolly before, I love how he takes classic movies and distorts them. So one of my favourite classic films is Charade, with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. And the trouble with Drax, he steals mercilessly from that film. Because that whole film is about someone who gets thrown over off a train and killed, somehow carrying 100,000 francs, but they don't know, in the goods he has, what he's done with the 100,000 francs. So once again, it's a whole thing of where's this money being kept. And there's a funeral for the main character too, where everyone walks in and one sticks it with a pin, someone puts a mirror up his mouth. It's just a replay of that scene. So, as that scene's happening in Connections, I'm just laughing and laughing, because I know John Dorney has stolen mercilessly, but just given it enough of a twist to make it lovely. So yeah, love it.
Fantastic. All right, give us your number 7.
Number 7, I'm going to go for Space 1999. So once again, this has a lot of nostalgia for me as a kid. Space 1999 was on every morning at 6 a.m. in the morning. I used to get up and watch it. Thunderbirds at 5 and Space 1999 at 6 a.m. I don't know how I got up so early, but I managed to back then. I think this is now the 3rd release in the series, if I'm correct. Mark Platt, Ian Meadows, Nicholas Briggs all bring very different stories, but very much in the style. The cast are, once again, just astounding. They're put together. Mark Bonner, Marie-Theresa Creasy are just lovely as Koenig and as Helen Russell. And the rest of the cast just, often playing more than one major role, because, of course, the TV show is populated with huge numbers of base personnel, and they managed to reproduce them with just a couple of actors the same way. What was your number 7?
It's very strange. I'm looking down my list, and I did not plan this, but my number 7 is a Seventh Doctor adventure.
Are we going to 6th and 5th Doctor next?
Oh, I could do. But this is the box set Silver and Ice. So I think the 7th Doctor had a couple of box sets last year. But Silver and Ice was one that I loved because of the fact that it so fits into season 24. It's like the season 24 story that we never got. There's 2 stories in there. There's one, it's set on Reboss, called The Reboss Inheritance by Jonathan Barnes, which recasts the role of Garen. So he's in there wheeling and dealing again, trying to con somebody. And then the other one, the other story is a 2-part story called Bad Day in Tinseltown, written by Dan Starkey. And every time I see Dan Starkey's name on the writer's credit, I get excited because I love his writing. It works really well. It's a Cyberman story. And this could only work in season 24, this story. But because season 24 exists, it works. So I love Sylvester McCoy's voice. It never seems to change. A lot of the other Doctors' voices aged a little over the years, but Sylvester still seems to be the same as ever. And I really enjoy the chemistry between him and Bonnie. So I hope we get some more.
Yeah, excellent box set. It really was.
Okay, we're up to number 6.
I'm going to go for the Avengers. I think people know, not the MC, of course, the real Avengers, Steed and Mrs. Peel. I think people know I've always had a fascination and passion for the Avengers. Love the 60s series. I used to watch it with my dad. So this is the comic strip adaptions for Volume 6, Steed and Mrs. Peel. There's all kinds of bizarre rights issues that Big Finish have. So they're allowed to do comic books. They can't do original Avengers stories, but they can do comic strip adaptions. And speaking to John Dorney about it, sometimes this comic strip may just be 3 or 4 panels, and from that they create a whole story, which is impressive. Once again, 7 Deadly Assassins, as opposed to the 7 Deadly Sins by Roland Moore. Mrs. Peel twice, and I think Honor Blackman does too. There's often stories where there's all these assassins trying to kill them all, and they're working their way through them all. It's a very, very 60s feel, all set on a ship, as Mrs. Peel is in danger, and Steed, and trying to get their way through and escape all these people trying to kill them. Stand and Live by Sarah Kochala, and You Won't Believe Your Eyes by John Dorney. One of the things I love about Avengers stories is something bizarre is happening. A time travel thing, dinosaurs, people standing and delivering in terms of carriages with horses and muskets and things. And then as the story progresses, you work out why that absurd thing has happened. And all these 3 comic strip stories all have that huge absurd element. And then by the end, they sort of wrap it up and conclude it. But the dialogue is just so witty. Julian Waterman, Olivia Poulet bounce off each other all the time. Just the way they quip things all the time. It's a laugh minute. This is one where I just sit back and laugh. I've talked about some dark ones before. This is a sit back and laugh every third or fourth sentence. What about you? Have you listened to the Avengers? This one or not?
I haven't listened to this one, but it is sitting there for me to listen to. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I love the comedy aspect of the Avengers, and the dialogue. I really enjoyed the Tara King ones actually, because the character of Mother being played by Christopher Benjamin was wonderful.
Well, it gets even more absurd with that 7th season. It's when you think that the TV series started with a very bleak, a doctor, his wife's murdered, him seeking revenge, trying to avenge her death, which is the whole concept. That whole first season was fairly dark, and then it just gets more and more ridiculous. But I love it.
Very good.
Your number 6.
My number 6. You're not going to believe this, but it's not a 6th Doctor adventure. It's a 5th Doctor adventure. And my pick of this year, there were 2 box sets in 2022 from the 5th Doctor that were celebrating the 40th anniversary of the 5th Doctor. And I think 41, Volume 1, was released on the same day that the 5th Doctor's first adventure happened on television. Was it the 1st of January or the 3rd of January or something?
Yeah, 3rd of January.
1982. So I think that was released on the same day. It was an interesting concept with the 5th Doctor somehow travelling up and down his own timeline, being in the wrong place, with different memories and things going on. It was all wrapped up in 40 Volume 2, and it's a single story called The Auton Infinity. Now, anything with Autons on it, I love. They're probably my favourite classic series monster, because they had such an impact on me as a child. Probably the scariest, the most scary impact. I was more scared of Autons than I was of Daleks or Cybermen or anything. So I love that. And what's great about this is you've got this story. It's written by Tim Foley, and it's 6 episodes. So very interesting. A 3 CD set, single story, but there's separate locations throughout. So it also has John Coleshaw in it. It's got Mark Strickson as Turlough, Janet Fielding as Tegan. Obviously, John Coleshaw's playing the Brigadier, so that's an interesting concept. He's also playing Chameleon in the story as well. But it's kind of like, it's almost like an Auton origin story, but not. And if I say too much more than that, I'll give it away. And the way that this particular Nestine consciousness comes to be I just love the conceit of it because it all ties in so well and with the Fifth Doctor's era and the events that happened during the Fifth Doctor's television era. Ties it in so well. Tim Foley's done an absolutely incredible job at this 6-part story, and absolutely my favourite Fifth Doctor story for 2022.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Fifth Doctor Adventures, 40, Autumn Infinity.
So you're finally awake.
Brigadier.
As ever, I find you in the most surprising places.
Oh, are you the lady who's going to turn us into monsters?
We saw shadows. Something nebulous, nefarious.
Sit still. The more you struggle, the more it hurts.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Earth is under attack.
Open fire!
You shot at us. We shoot at you.
An Auton invasion.
And that's not our only problem. Notice something about these army tents.
Did you crash? Did you land here by mistake?
This has all been planned.
Turlo!
Tegan!
Run! Don't!
And so it begins.
What have you done?
Through those doors is just a gaping wound in reality. That's raw vortex energy. Nobody look at it.
The mighty Doctor makes too many enemies.
I am afraid, Doctor, that something is terribly wrong.
Well, don't you worry, Doctor. I'm not going anywhere yet.
Proximity collision.
Something's coming out of the vortex fast. Hang on! It wants to be part of me. Because I am part of them. And now I'm meant to kill you.
Doctor!
Okay, so we're halfway there, Philip.
Yes, fantastic. So, do you want my number 5?
Yeah, hit me with it.
Excellent. One of the series I think I enjoyed so much last year was Torchwood. James Goss wrote most of them. I don't know how he managed it.
That was 21, yeah.
That was 21,
yeah.
Which was just astounding. And once again, this year they've been a very high standard, but a lot more and different writers. I think part of the reason I enjoyed Torchwood is it's very creative in terms of what it manages to do with a very small cast. And I think I love small casts. They can be really creative. It's why Companion Chronicles is part of why I love so much and why I'm loving the Blake 7. So I'm picking a Torchwood. It's an unusual one, though, in terms of it's not a big story. It's called Restricted Items Archive Entries 31 to 49. So this is a one-hander, which is pretty amazing. It's just Gareth David Lloyd playing Yanto Jones by himself in the Torchwood basement. And he's just recording on a recorder as he's going through the archive entry number 31, then 32, and he's describing what 31 is, he's describing what 32 is. You would think it'd be unbelievably boring, but it's not, because there's a whole plot going on in terms of these items, and different items are going to be really essential for the end of the story as the alien menace becomes more and more clear. Gareth David Lloyd's performance is just astounding. It's set from fairly early in Torchwood, soon after his girlfriend has been killed by the Torchwood team. I think if people know the Torchwood story, his girlfriend was half converted in Torchwood 1. He brings her to Torchwood 3, to Cardiff, and hides her away. But when she discovers and starts to go on a rampage of killing people, the Torchwood team put her down. And for quite a while, Yanto's a bit upset about that. It's strange. As you would be. As he would be. And he's feeling very much alone, and he describes what's going on upstairs. He's describing different characters, describing about the team building activity, but they've all gone out to balls but forgot to invite him. And so it's really it just tugs the heartstrings as it goes along, and then bit by bit you realise there's actually more going on with an amazing conclusion. So it's hard to believe, but one person by themselves in the archive dictating on a dictaphone, but it is just compelling stuff. Brilliantly done. New director, Stephen Kavuma. He's only done 3 things Big Finish so far, all Torchwoods. but the 3 things he's directed just have a lot of pace to them and a lot of energy, and that's certainly what happens here. Pathos, pace, energy, love it. You haven't listened to this, have you, Dwayne?
I haven't had a chance to listen to many Torchwoods this last year, so I've got a bit of a backlog.
Yeah, really, really clever. This one in particular, really worth listening to. It's a very clever story.
Very good.
What are your number 5?
My number 5 is a 4th Doctor adventure, so I'm going one less now. It was released early in 2022, the first 4th Doctor Adventures box set called Solo. And I think that might be the first 4th Doctor's box set that had a name rather than a volume number, so I think this might be volume 11. And Solo had 2 stories in it, and there was one story in particular that blew me away. They're both very good stories, but the first story is called Blood of the Time Lords, which I think we were talking last week about the Time Lords and how you find them boring, but I find them fascinating. You find them boring at times. And this is a very interesting Time Lord story. So there's a recusory where a whole heap of Time Lords go to retire and hang out in an area, and the 4th Doctor goes to investigate a mystery there.
Lots of sofas.
That's right. But this is not set on Gallifrey. It's set somewhere else, so that could be why it's one of the moons of Gallifrey. That's where it's set. So yeah, I loved this story. Annette Badland is in it. James Dreyfus is in it as the Master. I think this is the last time we are going to hear James Dreyfus as Master here. So if you want to catch him, he is here in this one. So that's pretty cool. I love all the Masters that Big Finish have brought in. So it's always nice to hear another one. The second story in the set was called The Ravencliff Witch, written by David Llewellyn. So he's an author that when I see his name, I get ready to listen to a good story. He always delivers a good story. Didn't grab me as much as Blood of the Time Lords by Timothy X. Atack, if I haven't mentioned his name. But still a good story, and introduced a new character played by Nerys Hughes, who is going to be very shortly joining the 4th Doctor and Leela as a regular companion for Big Finish. So overall, this was Blood of the Time Lords in particular, that story was my favourite 4th Doctor adventure for 2022.
Yep, it's pretty good. I agree with that. Okay, my number 4. I'm doing a David Tennant here, but a David Tennant with Colin Baker. As Dwayne mentioned before, David Tennant managed to record lots of stuff in lockdown, and this is Out of Time 3, Wink. So another Angels story. I think it's. I think we can safely say that the monster of the classic series is the Weeping Angels. I think more than any other monster, they've captured the imagination. So when we look at the top monsters of Doctor Who, still Daleks, Cybermen, Sontarans, Ice Warriors, and Weeping Angels, I think now are well and truly in the top 5. This is a planet which is always unbelievably bright, and so you can't see anything because it's so bright. But for an hour or two, every couple of decades, the sun gets dark enough that you can actually see and see what's going on. And so 2 doctors happen to descend at the same time because they want to see the city they've been wanting to see for ages. So Colin Baker, David Tennant in fine form. It's written by Lisa McMullen. It's only a 1-disc story, so it's pretty short. But it's got some great timey-wimey stuff in there. You've got angels in the past, angels in the future, things happening. There's a bit of fear going on, but some very clever scenes. And so David Tennant and Colin Baker, just fantastic together. Very witty dialogue, a bit of teasing, which I love, and a really good listen.
Hello, I'm the Doctor.
Did you say a doctor or...
The Doctor. Hello. What?
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who Out of Time 3, Wink.
You're not, by any chance, a Time Lord?
Oh, depends who's asking.
The Doctor.
Hey! Over here! Give us a hand with these statues!
No! Stop!
These people can't see.
We can't. What?
They have no concept of sight. Why would they? No need of it.
What are you talking about? Hello, this is Astra. Where are you, Dax?
Ask him about the angels. Ask him if any of them have been moved.
Hurry up! I I am! The gates are shut!
It's okay. They'll open automatically as we reach them.
A little more appreciation, if you don't mind. We just escaped two of the deadliest time assassins in the universe.
Yes. Very good.
The Weeping Angels. To all intents and purposes, ordinary stone statues, but only when you're looking at them. The minute you turn your head, the minute you so much as blink.
They're made of stone. It doesn't matter where they're facing. They can't move.
They can. They might.
And if you carry on, they definitely will. Where is that angel now?
Big Finish. For the love of stories.
My number 4 is a non-Doctor Who release, and that is the first release that Big Finish have done recreating UFO. The box set is called Destruct Positive, and it stars Barnaby K and Jenny Spark. And I've got to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this box set. If Big Finish is known for focusing on nostalgia, and let me just have a look here. Was Nick Briggs involved in this? Yes, he directed it. So he was the script editor along with Jamie Anderson. So a lot of attention to the detail of UFO. It's an interesting television series because it's sort of like a forerunner to Space 1999, but no one talks about it as much as Space 1999. But it is still equally as interesting as Space 1999, although it could be accused of being the same thing every week in, week out.
Did you ever see it? Because I never watched it.
Yeah. I haven't seen the whole series. I've actually got it sitting there. I've ripped the DVDs to my hard drive, and it's sitting in my hard drive in the TV, and every now and then I'll throw on an episode and just watch it. But this is different because in the TV series, it goes straight into the establishment of Shadow. It's already up and running. We know what they're doing because there's a title sequence where it sort of explains what the Shadow organization is. However, here we get a couple of episodes establishing the main character, whose name is Straker, and it sets up the whole how he came to be in the Shadow organization and how he came to be head of the Shadow organization in charge of, looking out for these UFOs and aliens who are trying to invade the Earth. So it gives a lot of background that you don't get in the TV series, and I love that about this set. But it doesn't detract from the feel of the set, and even though some people don't like the certain tropes of the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, when the TV series was made, they've done away with some of those. They never bothered me in the TV series, but even though they've done away with some of the tropes like alcohol use, which was and cigarette smoking, which was very, very heavy in the TV series. Some of UFOs often accused of being very sexist as well. I don't really see that in the TV series, but if you do, you do. And they have taken that away and given the female characters some pretty strong roles in this. And as far as a recreation of a classic TV series goes, this is absolute brilliance, and I can hardly recommend it. That's why it's so high up on my list at number 4.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I didn't know the TV series at all, and it's made me want to go and watch it, which I haven't done yet.
Yeah, that's what Big Finish, when they released Callan, I'd never seen Callan before, and when they did that, I went and saw the TV series afterwards. So, yeah, they have a tendency to do things like that if you haven't seen the series before. So, yeah, definitely seek it out.
From Big Finish Productions, UFO. Destruct Positive.
Well, there's definitely something out there. I can see a flashing light reflected in the cockpit.
Damn it! Can you see it? Driver, off-road!
I think I saw a light. A flashing light.
Ed, I'm under orders. Forget everything. That's what they told me.
We can make him doubt everything.
Lieutenant Colonel Virginia Lake.
You just don't give up, do you? Normally, I like that in a man.
That feels cold.
That's just the drug entering your bloodstream.
Please, help me.
Just once, I wish we could catch a break. Just get one of them alive. I want to hear what they have to say. Hell, I just want to hear them scream after everything they've done to us.
I'll see what I can do, sir. You'll never see me again, but you'll sure as hell hear from me.
Are you familiar with Project Sign? Project Grudge?
I may not know everything about you, but I know enough to make your life very difficult.
Project Blue Book?
I can lift up the stone that you hide beneath and expose you to the sun.
These phenomena aren't unidentified anymore.
Others are just not human.
Ed, you're scaring me.
And I'm scaring myself.
Truth is, this fight is my life, Stringer, and it will become yours.
Get into the tree, goddammit! Get under cover!
I can see something. Over here.
There it is. Ever seen one before?
Not in the flesh.
You've got a UFO breathing right down your neck. Get out of there, sir!
Shadow is all that matters now.
Get down!
Welcome aboard Skydiver, Commander.
Captain Carlin, tell me how you lost him.
But you already know if you've read...
I want to hear it from you, Captain.
Patching shadow control through now.
Shadow control to Skydiver 1. Do you read me? Over.
Adopt launch posture. You're going to want to hold into something, sir.
Sky 1, ready for launch.
Petra, eject! Get out!
Belay that order.
Petra Carlin is one of the best captains.
You're taking this all very personally.
Captain Carlin.
Commander Straker.
What's your situation?
If anyone moves in my direction, I will shoot.
Don't be a damn fool.
Oh, Christ, what's that? What the hell is it?
Torpedoes armed and ready, sir.
Fire one.
So, you really think they're what? Body snatchers?
I don't know anything. I was just presenting a possibility, Alec.
So, this is what we do now.
To fight. To survive. To win this war.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Great pick. Okay, into the top three. These are my three big ones. Firstly, Ninth Doctor. I've got to do some Ninth Doctor because the return of Christopher Eccleston has just been wonderful. We are so lucky now to have him at Big Finish, and he seems to be enjoying himself, and he's sticking around, which is really exciting. And hopefully we'll get a lot more out of him as well. So the box that I'm choosing is the Into the Stars box set that was released in August. Three really great stories. Salvation 9 by Timothy X. Attack. We've used his name before. We do see the same names popping up over and over again. This is a great...
Salvation 9 was my favourite from that box set. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Was fantastic. A Sontaran story like no other Sontaran story. Dan Starkey is wonderful. And yeah, that one story is worth the whole box set. But the next two stories are equally amazing. The Last of the Zeta Scene by James Kettle. Unusual for James Kettle, it hasn't quite got the emotional punch. There's a real gangster feel, set in sort of a casino sort of world. Maureen O'Brien is in this as well, playing a despicable character, and she's wonderful. And
Isn't she a giant spider or something?
Something like that.
It's like a very spidery type of... Oh, yeah, that's right. You don't like...
I don't like alien races,
human.
you know that. So I just go for the voices. But she was just wonderful, and I love it when they get the Doctor Who cast actors to do other roles because they're so talented. It's great to actually see what they're able to do. And that's one. And then Break the Ice by Tim Foley. He's come up a few times too. So three great stories. The Ninth Doctor in fine form. I would love to see him get a box set with Rose. I mean, I'd love it if he and Rose were able to do a box set together. Because this is all still pre-Rose, which some people arc it a bit. Doesn't bother me. If I'd been doing it, I would have set it between the Doctor leaving Rose to go to the surgery to see the pig creature and coming back together again. And I would set a whole few box sets in that whole period. in time. But
if you look at that series, there are lots and lots of gaps that you
there
could.
Are gaps there, but
Yeah.
Rose is usually with him. But that's a gap where the Doctor's in the TARDIS without Rose. So if they want to do box sets without Rose, that takes away the order of, people want to say he's just regenerated when he meets Rose. We don't know that. He does check his E's out, but who knows? Anyhow, Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, amazing actor. This is great. Dan Starkey, Marina Brun and others, just wonderful. So enjoy.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Ninth Doctor Adventures, Into the Stars.
What have you seen from up there? Oh no. Oh no!
Halt! Halt immediately!
Applying deadly force. Applying deadly force. Sontaran army presence detected.
I've died a few times. It's always different.
We have captured a time traveler and his TARDIS.
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 Well, that's no way to treat a customer. I thought I was supposed to be always right.
My friend Xana went hiking in the Cellarage once. Do you know Xana?
I don't.
Everybody knows Xana. Married to Pod. They've got 3 planet hoppers and a holiday home in Helicon Prime.
I'm new here.
Well, anyway, the point is, you know pleasure ports. Things happen here that you couldn't get away with anywhere else.
What is this, Stilo? They're both activists. I've seen them before. Get rid of them. They think they can win the swine.
It's out.
It's so happy.
Last of its kind out there in the universe. Would you be happy?
Who are you?
Another doctor. Nobody interesting, but you are fascinating.
Dr. Bella.
I'm sorry.
Are they?
Dead. Yeah.
They've been frozen.
I only suspected before. The TARDIS felt a fold in reality that gave me such a chill. But now I know for sure. On Rebos, you're called the Bitter King. On Cacophony, the Cold Bringer. You go by many names, but since we're nearest to Earth, I ought to call you Jack Frost. I'm here to save them.
Doctor, that's nonsensical. It's obscene. Why would anyone want to save the Sontarans?
Okay, my number 3, you're not going to believe it. It's a Third Doctor adventure. And it is The Annihilators, which came out earlier in 2022. What was interesting about The Annihilators is that when it was advertised back in 2021, there was a different cover. And I think it was the 1st of January. I think this was the first announcement Big Finish made of 2022, is a new cover with the Second Doctor appearing on the cover. And Jamie. So Second Doctor and Jamie, the Doctor being played by Michael Troughton. So this is the first appearance of Michael Troughton's Second Doctor. And it is also a 7-part adventure. So we've got Daisy Ashford playing Liz Shaw, John Coleshaw playing the Brigadier. And with 7 parts, this is firmly set in Series 7, which is my favourite Third Doctor series. And it is just a nostalgia fest from start to finish. The Second Doctor doesn't appear... I've only heard it the once, and I don't recall the Second Doctor appearing too much throughout the story, which sort of sets up a bit of a mystery, which is still ongoing, even though we've had a box set featuring the Second Doctor in full. But it was still very intriguing, nonetheless. And this was just so well done, so Series 7... it really ticked all my nostalgic boxes, and it is my number 3, Third Doctor number 3. Tim Trelaw's always in fine form.
Yeah, Tim Trelaw's excellent.
Did you notice anything odd about that policeman?
No, why?
He seemed strangely blank.
From Big Finish Productions, The Third Doctor Adventures, The Annihilators.
There's no way out! We're trapped!
What happened with the TARDIS?
There was an odd surge of... well...
Of what?
gravity.
Gravity?
Oh my giddy aunt! What's that?
I'm hallucinating. I must be.
They say that talking to yourself is the first sign of madness.
What?
But still, let's hope you appreciate the gravity of the situation.
Doctor!
Jamie! It's so good to see you.
You too.
Oh, we better keep our voices down.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Okay, my number 2, I had to put a Blake 7 in here somewhere. I think the whole Blake 7, I think there's been 3 box sets this year. They've all been excellent in different ways. Just the creativity that Peter Angelidis is managing to show with them, and I'm just adoring them. I had to choose one because I couldn't put all 3 in. I've gone for After the War. For those of you who know Blake 7, at the end of season 2, the universe, the solar system, is being invaded by Andromedans from another galaxy, and Blake is left to defend the entrance to the hole that Travis has brought down. Travis is killed at the end of the story. Blake stands to defend it, and then the beginning of the 3rd season is several hours, maybe days later, and the Liberator is basically being destroyed, and all the crew have to evacuate. And what happens to them next? So that's the sort of the premise of the TV show. So these 3 stories all take place around that time. Andromeda 1, which is by Trevor Baxendale, has Brian Croucher starring in it, who is dead. But it's actually...
Yes, it's very confusing because it says the box set is After the War, and you know Travis dies in Star 1. So how could he... I think it's a very, very clever piece of artwork to put Travis on that. You think, how could he possibly be there? But it's very simply explained very, very quickly in that first episode, and I love it.
It's filling up all the gap between how Travis got to where he got to, and it's all that backstory, but with modern twists as well after the event. So it's a lovely tribute to Brian Croucher, and it's actually a really good tribute to Travis in terms of understanding better what was going on with Travis. Fallout by Steve Lyons is a lovely story for Jenna in terms of when her capsule crashes. And of course, the thing about the Andromeda is the shapeshifters. And so you can never be sure who you're discussing. And so you're aware that somewhere there's an alien on this planet. Is it going to be who you think it is? How are you going to track them down? Those are the huge concerns there. And the enemy is mainly a Cali-focused story, but there's other characters as well. Once again, looking at the whole idea of shapeshifters and these aliens and how dangerous they are. 3 different stories, all fantastic. Really, really worth the money.
Yeah, out of the 3 that were released in 2022, After the War is my pick as well. If I had to pick a favourite, and particularly that. No, they're all good, but yeah, I love that first story with Brian Croucher. That was the standout for 22. That one.
There's a particular story in the next set, which has Stephen Greif and Sally Nivette together.
Yes,
which that one particular story is possibly my favourite story out of the entire year. But this box set sort of pips that one story.
The war, the loss of Star 1, everything's a complete shambles.
The Federation has failed. The human race has failed. I'm an outlaw, a traitor.
Why did you leave?
You assume I had a choice. What about you? What do you believe in?
Survival.
From Big Finish Productions, the worlds of Blake 7, After the War.
You're a shape changer, an alien.
600 ships, all that was left of the Andromeda Collective, carrying gene banks and all the weapons we could salvage. The survival of our race depends on us finding compatible beings in this galaxy.
Human beings.
I'm human, you're human. We're on the same side, the only side that matters now.
Well, my dear, you've had a lucky escape. We almost dismissed your life capsule as space debris.
Jonah? I'm trapped, Callie! Help me! Callie!
And you're a telepath.
Of course. How else could I anticipate your needs?
You're not Aranar. You're human, am I right? Humans don't have telepathy, believe me, I know.
You're the aliens.
She's a shapeshifter from the next door galaxy.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
She was in pain. I caused that pain, me and my friends on the Liberator. Maybe it doesn't deserve that name.
Callie! How am I... Oh! Callie!
Number 2, am I going to have a second Doctor story? No. My number 2 is a First Doctor adventure, and that is the introduction of Stephen Noonan to the role of the First Doctor in a box set entitled The Outlaws. The first story is the story of the same name, written by Elizabeth Miles, and it is a pure historical story. Also, speaking of Blake 7, features Glynis Barber in the role of one of the main roles. The thing about this set and Stephen Noonan's performance is that how can I explain the difference between, say, Peter Purves and then David Bradley as well, who've also played the First Doctor for Big Finish? There's something totally different about Stephen Noonan's performance, and it is you can sense his passion and his love for the role as he's playing the part. He concentrates so hard on getting things exactly right, and he does such a brilliant job. I don't think there's any way you can copy the First Doctor exactly, because as I've heard people, I don't know who talked about it with us. Who talked about it with us, Philip? I'm sure someone, it might have been Mark Wright, was saying that the character of the First Doctor was a character. Like in the Fourth Doctor, you can hear Tom Baker. In the Third Doctor, you can hear John Pertwee when they speak. But when you hear William Hartnell, the actor, speak, he doesn't sound like the First Doctor. So his whole character is a performance. And that's what Stephen Noonan seems to get. His performance is what's important. He's getting all the intonations right. He throws in line fluffs throughout. In fact, there is a part in here where I think they go a little bit over the top with the line fluffs. I'm not sure what they were doing there. And it made me think, oh, they've gone a bit over the top there. Some of his laughter might have been over the top as well. But overall, this set was so good because I'm such a fan of the First Doctor. It is a great homage to the First Doctor and a great way to carry on the line of the First Doctor adventures, particularly that little gap where we've got the First Doctor and Dodo travelling together alone, just after Stephen and before the War Games. So it's nice to get that. Lauren Cornelius plays Dodo really well. She does a great job, but Dodo is so brief on television that it just leaves it open for someone to just take the role and just add more to it on audio here. The Miniaturist by Lizzie Hopley is the second story, a 2-part story. And when the trailer for this came out, the Miniaturist is played by Annette Badland. She had a big year in 2022, lots of releases with her in it. A few people, including myself, thought, this sounds a bit like the Celestial Toymaker, but it did turn out that it wasn't the Celestial Toymaker, but another great story as well. Very strange story. But I think Stephen Noonan is the one who has cemented this one in my number 2 for me, because his passion for the role, he's engaged with fans as well, including us, when he's talked about the role. So he is very passionate about this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes from his portrayal.
Yeah, that's a very interesting summary in terms of the Doctors. I was just reflecting. I think David Bradley and William Hurdell both just do their own takes. I don't think they're trying to do the First Doctor. They're just doing what they think the First Doctor should be.
Yep.
I think Peter Purves just shows his love for William Hartnell.
Yes.
I think he's a love song to his friend, whereas I think Stephen Noonan is trying to get the First Doctor. And he's just studied the First Doctor. He's the essence of who he is. And you did right. William Hartnell was a total performance. The man was nothing like his character. And so every interview that you see of William Hartnell, he's almost unrecognizable. His voice, his attitude, the way he stands, everything is just a performance. So he steps into the TARDIS, he puts on the First Doctor, and Stephen Noonan, I think, does the same thing. What is the essence of the First Doctor? And he's trying to capture that. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting. So it's a recast for your number 2. It was a recast for your number 3 as well.
Ooh, yes.
So you've chosen the recast Doctors.
I am a fan of the recast, Philip.
Yeah,
I think you know that, and I think that's come out during our time on the podcast too.
It has.
And I do try to defend recasts to anyone who may be cynical about them, because I think there is so much to enjoy.
And you're right, they've been such special stories this year.
Yeah.
From Big Finish Productions, The First Doctor Adventures, The Outlaws.
You didn't happen to catch sight of a white-haired old coot, did you?
Well, as a matter of fact, we did.
You were not here when I was last forced to defend these walls. That lasted only 40 days, and yet still it tested the fortitude of every man and woman here.
The French archers have loosed their arrows!
Then the attack has begun!
Quickly! We haven't much time! It won't be long before Louis' soldiers scale the walls!
So, gentle knight, what have you to show me?
A secret.
Well, this is my ward, Lady Dorothea...
Dodo.
Oh, yes, of course, my dear. Lady Dodo Chaplet.
And this is the doctor.
Hello? Yes, I'm here. Do stop bellowing. What is it?
Oh, no. Doctor,
Yes, child.
Oh, who would do such a thing?
Outlaws, my dear. Outlaws. The brutish reality of history, my dear.
Oh, that was a truly disgusting clown.
It's not all dressing up, you know.
Pity we had to clamber up the privy chute.
I suggest we release these poor animals and leave before the outlaws return.
I am William of Berkshire, and you are trespassing in my forest.
Who?
William of Berkshire. Surely you've heard of me.
No, I can't say that I have. And relax that bowstring, sir. You'll have somebody's eye out with that arrow.
Oh, delightful. The doctor's here, that's what matters. And I've had plenty of time to contemplate my revenge.
You perfidious meddler! What are you doing here? What are you, planning? And where is Dodo?
Now, that's more like it. I'm sure we're going to have a chance to catch up, but right now, I'd better get going.
The young woman you travelled with spoke against our anointed king.
She was confused. She didn't know what year it was.
Is she often so confused?
What have you done with my ship?
Nothing, except keep it safe.
Those French dogs are going to swarm into Lincoln, and I've no way to stop them.
Oh no! Doctor! Look!
The French have breached the city walls.
We're all going to die!
The doctor, my lady.
What is the meaning of this? One moment I'm a guest, then a prisoner, then a guest again, and now I'm being dragged around the castle by these ruffians of yours.
With good reason.
As I recall, you wanted to see King William, the Conqueror, defeated at Hastings in 1066.
Yes, I did.
The Miniaturist.
Hello? I know you.
Daddy?
How did you get here? You can't be...
Daddy.
Simon?
We've heard a great deal about your work, in the Zechstein mine specifically.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Oh, believe me, I've just as much interest in you as you have in me, Professor.
No! Wait! Don't go!
Doctor, what's happening?
Can you feel that? Can you? The air is thicker.
Maybe you shouldn't touch the shell.
You're quite disturbed by me, aren't you, my unusual friend? This game is at an end.
We are playing. You and me. I like playing with you.
If you play with the dimensions of my ship, you won't just destroy this part of England. You'll destroy the Earth's solar system.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
So that brings us to our number ones.
Okay, well, my number one, going first, because I think I have to. Once again, bit of pure nostalgia. I've gone for Charlotte Pollard, The Further Adventuress. Not Further Adventures, A Further Adventuress. I think you know the Eighth Doctor and Charlotte Pollard just captured my heart when was she living in Melbourne when this came out, the first 20 years or so ago, or it was 21 years ago, when what was it, 22? How long it was ago? A long time ago. When the first season of Paul came out, they were just amazing, and they blew me away, and I fell in love with India Fisher, her voice, her characterization. This, to me, Charlotte Pollard was the first modern companion. Ace, they tried to do it with. Ace, they had a backstory with Ace, and you could see that they were developing her in all kinds of ways, and Ace was a step different to the other companions they'd had. But for Charlotte, she was the first modern one, with family, with much more backstory, with an arc, and her relationship with the Doctor was much more intense and emotional, to the point of where she declared she loved him. So I've just always had an amazingly special, soft heart for these two. And those first 2 seasons in particular are where they're having the most fun and exploration. And this box set falls into there. So it's during the period where they're having all their fun, all their joy exploring, still getting to know each other. And it's just 4 excellent stories. Alan Barnes, Lisa McMillan, Eddie Robson, and Nicholas Briggs write 4 amazing stories. Each one is quite different in different ways. And I think I love the fact that it sort of changes its tone, which is one of the things that that these early boxes did really well, was that the tone kept changing. Nicholas Briggs is doing a sequel, The Heart of Orion, to his original one, written more than 20 years earlier, Sword of Orion. So it is a sequel. There's one character that carries through, and a lot of the themes and ideas carry through. I think Nicholas has done a great job. Nick Briggs has done a great job with that. Probably The Mummy Speaks was probably my favourite by Alan Barnes in that. But it's a close race because they're all marvellous. So,
well, Alan Barnes co-created Charlie, so he's got a handle on that character, which you love, doesn't he?
Yeah. So I think he knows her better than anybody else.
What was the story that Eddie Robson wrote? It's got a funny name.
The Slaying of the Writhing Mass.
Yes, Slaying of the Writhing Mass. I loved that. I remember at the time you going, this is a bit weird. No, I loved it.
I went back and listened to it again because it's also they're caught in a traffic jam. They're trying to get to this point, and it's all these time ships all caught in a traffic jam trying to get forward, and it's just a bizarre group of characters. It's crazy. It is an utterly ridiculous, out there story,
but wonderful.
So, as I said, every story has something very different to offer, from the terrifying suspense with maybe, and then you've got the ridiculous to the sublime. So, Charlotte Pollard for me. It could have been lots of things, to be perfectly honest, but this is just the one that I was forced to choose because I had to put them in order because Dwayne made me.
The only place in the world where one can relax entirely, you said. A spirit all of its own, you said. Like a wine, it has a bouquet, you said.
I did.
Well, it's got a bouquet, all right. Doctor, it absolutely honks.
It's Paris, Charlie. City of lights, city of life, city of love. Come to think of it, it does smell a bit.
From Big Finish Productions.
Oh, Lord, we seem to have roused the mob.
Indeed, Miss Pollard. When I say career...
Don't worry, I'll career like a lapper.
Career!
Doctor Who, Charlotte Pollard, The Further Adventuress.
What are they? Giant moths? Oh, I hate moths. Hate moths! What's that?
That is my sonic screwdriver.
Selka! What did you do to my daughter?
Oh, Doctor!
No!
Oh, it's taking off! Doctor!
Stop firing!
It's gone.
Yes, and it's taken Charlie with it.
I've never seen them do anything like that before.
These are the coordinates for the Garazone system.
Garazone? When we went there, you nearly...
Died, yes, I know.
What's happening?
The Doctor's doing something clever.
Like what?
Not entirely sure.
Wait a minute! Are you saying that my daughter was being controlled by a signal?
There's nothing we can do. They brought this on themselves. You can't just go tearing up an ecosystem and not expect consequences.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
I need help. And you're the only other person I can think of who has a motive for getting back up there to Amston's airship.
True, and I tell you something else.
What's that?
You are going to be extremely grateful you teamed up with me.
What's your number one, Dwayne?
My number one. is, since we're talking about recasts, well, let me start off by saying that a couple of years ago on this very podcast, I was talking about the biography of Patrick Troughton, written by Michael Troughton. I hadn't read it. I'd listened to the audiobook, and I said at the time, this is the guy who should play the Doctor, because he was reading diary entries in the voice of his father. And it sounded so good. I thought, if anyone has to be recast, if they're doing recast, well, then this is it. And then about a year later, it was announced that Michael was coming on to do this, and I felt very chuffed that I'd kind of predicted this. And so in July of 2022, Beyond War Games was released, and I've got to say that I was 100% correct. He was the perfect choice to play the second Doctor, and what an amazing couple of stories. Interesting to see Nick Briggs and Mark Wright co-writing together. Nick Briggs doesn't often co-write, and Mark Wright has a different co-writer when he co-writes, generally. But to see them together was really interesting. In a double sequel, so called The Final Beginning. So it's a sequel to Evil of the Daleks and also a sequel to the War Games. So it's an absolute triumph, this. An absolute triumph. This is as close to perfection, I think, as Big Finish ever gets. It is just outstanding. If you're into nostalgia, which I am, I'm very much into nostalgia, you've got Nick Briggs on it. He knows the kind of thing I like, so I'm pretty confident that I'm usually going to get, if it's a nostalgic piece, because some of Nick's stuff where he does action pieces and things like that, I don't connect with as much, but when he goes into the nostalgia side of things, like this is, it's pretty well exactly what I want. So the second story on there, they're both 4-part stories. So it's a 3 CD set. So how are you going to get, I saw that and I thought, how are they going to get 4 parts onto 3 CDs? So they're going to, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to be split up. But you'll get how that's done when you hear The Final Beginning. And Wrath of the Ice Warriors by Andrew Smith was really good too. So we've got the Brigadier in there, played by John Coleshaw. He's always perfect. Katie Manning is in there too, but not playing Jo Grant. So she's playing one of the Ice Warriors, and she does it beautifully. I could tell it was Katie Manning, but I remember, Philip, when we were talking about it, you didn't even know.
Well, no, I didn't. I forget to look at cast lists. I think once I knew it was her, I could hear it, but I didn't know it otherwise.
Yeah. So, needless to say, I'm chuffed that we're able to have Michael Troughton on, actually, just very recently, and talk to him about this. He's continuing to do things for Big Finish. He's continuing to play the second Doctor, and I'm very, very excited to see what comes next in Beyond. Well, are they going to call the next set Beyond War Games? No, they probably won't. There'll be something else, but whatever comes next for the second Doctor, I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be good, because this has been an absolutely thrilling release for me.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Second Doctor Adventures, Beyond War Games.
You have been content merely to observe the evil in the galaxy. I have been fighting against it.
Jenny, sorry, don't forget me.
I just got trapped here, like you.
Hello? Oh!
Who are you?
Oh, what a big gun you've got. I see. You mean I'll cease to exist?
As you are now.
Are you or are you not the Doctor that I met during the Yeti business?
Is this your ship?
Well, no, I suppose not.
This planet was slap bang in the middle of our warp conduit.
Curious.
You're telling me.
I'm not James Bond, you know.
Where is your communication device?
Can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear, Doctor.
Complete the attack run. Bombard the surface.
Is this your new, companion?
I'm no one's companion, thank you very much.
The TARDIS is, temperamental like that. And at the moment, I'm, not exactly a free agent. Are you receiving Great Dane 1?
Greyhound, Doctor.
Oh, I do beg your pardon.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
So how many of your 10 were recast Doctors? Is this a top 3?
Let me have a look. Yeah, top 3.
Top 3 were all as recast Doctors. Where do you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like my recasts.
Yep.
I'm a fan of them. Just like I'm a fan of the anime. Like there's very vocal people on the animations that say, I don't like the animations. And there's also equally, if not more, vocal people against recasts. But I can rest assured that I'm not the only one, surely, who appreciates this. And it's something that the other thing that was new for Big Finish in 2022 was their tagline. Remember before they would always put a tagline at the start of each story, Big Finish, we love stories. Well, that changed in 2022. And it sort of, it took a little while to get used to, because I was like, Big Finish, we love stories. Yeah, that's how it is. But it became Big Finish for the love of stories. And I've been thinking about that. And that encompasses the reason Big Finish do what they do. And it encompasses the reason you and I listen to Big Finish. So it's a very inclusive term. It includes everybody, both the people who make it and the people who listen to it like you and I. So I think that sort of is a very good summary of the mission statement, I guess, of Big Finish, is that this is the reason they do it, for the love of stories. This is the reason you and I listen to it, Philip, for the love of stories. Doesn't matter if it's recast. If it's done well, it's the stories that reign supreme.
You're getting all touchy-feely, Dwayne.
I'm looking at you grinning at me like a Cheshire cat.
You're getting all emotional.
I wasn't.
He's going to cry.
Is that what you think? I was not.
Good stuff. Anyhow, it's been a great year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've just picked our top 10. I'd love to know what you'd put in. Feel free to put in the comments. What do you think what dreadful crime we committed by leaving out your favourite story? Feel free to attack us in the comments and let us know that we've got it wrong. And how dare we put that? And we should have put this. The great thing is it's always such a huge range.
Yeah.
And this year's already started. This year's already started very well.
Yes, absolutely. So we're not going to recommend anything other than what we've already talked about, aren't we, Philip?
20 CDs we've recommended. I think that should be enough for you to go on with. It's
been great to talk about these with you, Philip.
It has been good to talk to you too.
It was such a shame Kenny couldn't be here with us too. That would have been nice, and we hope we can get together with him again soon.
Just for the bit of Scotch accent would have been nice too.
Yes, absolutely. Well, until we meet again, thank you for your company, Philip.
Thank you for yours, Dwayne.
We'll catch you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
This has been the Sirens of Audio episode 141, the best of Big Finish 2022, with your hosts Philip Edney and Dwayne Bunny. Original theme music composed by Joe Kramer. Our website is sirensofaudio.com. You can email us at sirensofaudio.com or contact us via any one of our socials. Thanks for listening, audiophiles. We'll hear you next time. Very good. All right, it's been a pleasure to talk with these about... now I've got a brain fart.